Hi guys. Hi, how's it going? This is going to be a little bit of a different video for me. So I have, you guys can see, I have an empty palette out here, just an empty Z palette. I think it'll hold enough shades. I'm pretty certain it'll hold enough shades. I also have all of my single eyeshadows here, including my Cliona ones, because I want to recreate the ABH Fall Romance palette. Listen, I think it's a beautiful palette, but I also look at it and think I don't need this palette. But then when I go into stores, I'm like, oh my goodness, I need this palette. So I'm going to put this guy to the side, and I am going to open up my single eyeshadows. Well, there's a green that we might be able to use, but this one just has these shadows in it. So more of the neutral tones. I might pop these greens over here just because. That's how we're gonna roll with this palette right here for now. And then I've got, of course, this one. So I'm going to take out these plastic bits so that they don't get in the way to try to recreate the Fall Romance palette by ABH. So with that said, I am looking at some pictures online, right? That I've screenshot. I think that this is a really good picture for us to look at to see what the shadows look like. So I am gonna copy that, and that is from Deal Town, I guess from Instagram. And then I have swatches, but I also wanted to go on to let's go to the Ulta website and look it up, because the Ulta website will tell us what the colors are. Well, this has good swatches. Maybe we'll just stay here. But those are good swatches. Let's go to here and look up the details. And it's got the shade names right here, and save that to photos. So I can then go into my photos and just kind of go back and forth between these two photos. But this is what we're doing today. I hope that sounds like something that you're interested in. This is something that here's the true tea. I watch Lauren May Beauty do this all the time. And I've always been like, ooh, I want to try this. But at the same time, I'm just not talented enough, I don't think. So I guess we will see based on this video. So I'm going to take my watch off, and we will swatch on my arm. The first shadow is this one. This is called Smoke. And Smoke is a metallic silverish taupe with green gold reflex. And when I look at the shadow itself, it reminds me a lot of this one here, but this one here is too pink. So maybe this one? I still feel like that is not taupey enough. I don't know. I mean, it looks right according to the shadow in the picture, but according to the swatch, I think when I look at this one, I think it looks more like Fireside. And then I am going to take this one, which I also think is a contender, and swatch it. This is harder than it should be. Metallic silverish taupe with green gold reflex. What does this one look like? What about this one? That looks more blue though, right? What is this? It's very strange, but I do think that this one right here, which is my Cliona shadow, looks the most like the swatch that I have here. What about this one? Maybe. Which one, guys? I do think that this one kind of looks like smoke as well. I think I want to use this one because it's got in person, you know, this is a Cleona shadow, and maybe I can get you to see the flip though too. In person, this one has a little bit of a pinky green to blue like flip to it, but it's also very taupe. So I think I'm going to use this. Okay, so we're going to go with this as our smoke shade. Shade number 1. Okay, shade number 2 is Moonlight. Moonlight is a duochrome lavender with a sparkling pink opal shift. And I've seen people swatch these, and I feel like this is more of like a topper. There's definitely not a lot of base to it. When I think duochrome lavender, I'm thinking it's probably in here somewhere. I also think it could be this one right here because this is kind of a duochrome lavender shade. This one also maybe could be it. We're going to try this one because this was my first inclination, and I think that it doesn't come across as a duochrome. It just looks like a lavender. There's no opalescence to it. Let's try this one. That one is really gold. So that one's not it. Let's try this one. I do think that it suits what I'm looking at here. Moonlight, duochrome lavender with a pink opal shift. Try this one. Nope, this is it. I do think that this one is it. This has lavender. It's got the shiftiness to it. It's not got a lot of base to it. I think that you can see it on my finger more than you can see it in that swatch, but I do think that this is the shade. So that was easy peasy. We're gonna go with this one. And I forgot to tell you, this one by Cleona is Opulent. That was the first shade that we chose. And this one is a Sydney Grace shadow called Mystery. Battery is changed. We're not going to lose a video today. All right, next one is Fireside. Fireside is a metallic rosy copper with sparkling reflex. And I really do feel like one of the shades that we used earlier looked like it. And I can't decide whether it is this one or this one. I really do think one of these is probably it. And if we go back to the description, it says a metallic rosy copper. I do think that this one is more rosy copper. I think this is the shadow. Let's swatch a couple other ones just in case. Let's swatch this one again. I think this is more of a, yeah, this is more of like a deep bronze. This one here, it has a little bit more of a bronziness to it. This one maybe? That one's too pink. Let's try this one. This one will probably be too brown. Yeah, I definitely think it's this one. This one is a Sydney Grace shadow in Strawberries and Cream. The next one is Divine, and Divine is a duochrome vivid purple with sparkling pink pearl shift. And I do think, like, when I look at that shadow, this reminds me of that shadow, and I think it's probably a pretty perfect match. Let's look at it. Oh yes, look at that. Is perfection to that swatch on my screen. That is perfect. So we're not even going to go any further. We found our match. You guys, I don't know. I feel like this is such a weird like combo of shadows though. Isn't it a weird combo of shadows? Okay, the next one is Crown. And Crown is a duochrome gold with sparkling green blue shift. And I think, I mean, hear me out. I think when we swatched this, it did have like a blue-green shift, but it was too gold to be my taupe shade. So I do think that this is appropriate. Let's swatch it again. Maybe not. I think the color in here is far more gold. Now, here's going to be a problem because I don't have a whole lot of gold because I don't wear gold. I think what I want to do though, I have these guys, but none of these is going to have a flip really. And this is more of like a butter shadow. That actually is super pretty. That's a lot prettier than I remember it being. Let's swatch this one. I'm gonna swatch this one. Oh no, that's far too yellow. The last like gold I guess I have in my singles collection, maybe this one. Let's look at this first. That's far too marigold. Let's look at this. Ooh. So I can't get it on camera, but this one definitely shifts like green gold. I think that this one is perfection, honestly. Dual chrome gold with sparkling green blue shift. I definitely think this is the one. Okay, so that shocked me because that's actually really freaking yellow. But I think of all the ones that I have here, I do think that this one is a good match. So that is what we're gonna go with for crown. This one is the shade Ochre by Cleona. The last one in the top row is Ember. And Ember is a matte toasted brown with fiery reflex. What I think that means is that that shadow has probably some orange shimmer in it. And honest, y'all know how I feel. If you've been around here for a minute, you know that I do not like glitter in my mattes. So I'm just going to find a matte brown that resembles Ember. I have to imagine that it's a little bit more of a red brown. So I'm thinking like it's going to be one of these, of course, right? I almost think that that's it. So that was this one. And we have this one. God, these feel so good to the touch. These are so silky. I almost think those aren't brown enough. Ooh, I have a couple more. That's too taupe. Ooh, that one's dark. I think we're gonna call this one Ember. Yeah, let's call this one Ember. I mean, that doesn't look necessarily 100% wrong. Okay, so this is our whole first row. That looks so just whacked out. I think me doing this will show me just how not succinct this palette is and really steer me clear of it. Okay, next we're going to do Leather. And Leather is a matte stone shade, which I think I already decided, like, was this one? I think that looks right. Yeah, I think I want this one. It looks more brown in the swatch online than it does in the swatch on the actual person. Does that make any sense? I think I'm going to go with this one for Leather. So now I'm going with Thorn. And Thorns is a matte hunter green with sparkling reflect. Again, it's a matte with sparkle in it. I do not need a matte with sparkle. I do not like a matte with sparkle. I do not want a matte with sparkle. I'm thinking either this one here or this one here. This one feels a little too like Kelly green in my humble opinion. This is a good contender too, but this is more of a metallic. This would be a good contender as well, but this is also more of a metallic. So let's do some swatches first of this one, which is that green. But I feel like it's a little bit more like army than that. Let's do this one. That one's too green. Let's do this one just for giggles. Yeah, see, that one's too evergreen. I feel like it has to be this one, right? It definitely has to be that one. I'm gonna pull this guy out. This is Sydney Grace in Kiss Me, I'm Irish. You know what I'm gonna do, because there's another green in here? I am actually gonna put this one, which was in here, and I'm gonna put this green down at the end, because there's another green in here called Twilight, which is a matte deep grayish green. And when I think about a gray green, this very much looks like a gray green. And this one could be a hunter green. Could this one be a hunter green? We're gonna pretend it is. You know why? Because this is my recreation. So, and it's what I've got. I don't have a whole lot of mattes in terms of single eyeshadows, which is very strange to me. Okay, so if we did Thorns, the next one is Crimson, which is a matte deep wine. I think it could be this one, but I also have Mulberry. You know what I'm noticing is that none of these I don't think are as deep as I need them to be. This is definitely a brown. That one maybe, but that one, Crimson, is a deep wine. And Mulberry is a reddish brown. I don't think I have anything that is a deep wine shade. I'm sure I could find something in one of my other palettes, but I don't want to have to go into my other palettes. Let's see. What I could do, that's actually very wine, right? And it's not like glittery or anything. I feel like that is wine. I'm going to pull this one in for Crimson, which is a matte deep wine. This is not a matte, as you guys can see. This is actually oil painting by Sydney Grace. And it is, I think, more of a, like a satin. But I feel like this is about as wine as my collection gets. And then for Mulberry, the matte reddish brown, I think I'm going to pull in this shade, which was this matte reddish brown. We're going to pull this one in, which is also a Sydney Grace shadow. And this one is called Chocolate Raspberry Fudge. I think that that is pretty appropriate for Mulberry, reddish brown. All right, the last one is Midnight, which is a metallic smoky purple with sparkling reflex. And I really, really feel like this one probably suits that bill for Midnight. I am going to bring in this purple, I do think, because this is a purple that is a metallic smoky purple. And this is called Jelly by Sydney Grace. And it looks like this. I think that this is a perfect smoky metallic purple. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm feeling some sort of way about this. Number one, putting this together made me think that this is quite possibly the ugliest the ugliest palette I've ever seen in my life. So there's that. I am going to swatch it, and then we're going to look at the swatches side by side with the swatches that I have pulled off of the internet, and we're going to see how we feel about it. So you know, when I look at the swatches that I have versus the swatches that are online, I feel like this one is so much darker and this one should go here. So this is almost a black. So I think what I'm gonna do is switch out Twilight, my shade for Twilight, and this green one here. I have a couple that I'm switching out actually. So I'm taking this one out and this one out. And what I am going to do instead is take this green and put this green here and put this green back. And I am going to put in, I mean, this color is nearly black. And I think that the only shadow that I have that is nearly black is actually a black. And I'm not opposed to this being in there. This is a ColourPop shadow called Let's Do It. And it is just truly a black. But it is a really shitty black. So, I mean, it's more of a gray toned black. So I think that suits this better. And this suits the like army green that it wants better, right? Right. Here's what I would also say. I do think that this shade and this shade look, you know, too kind of similar. I'm going to change this one out and put that back for this one because I think that makes more sense. So this one would go here and this shade would go here. I still think that this palette is really disjointed. I think that everything else looked good. Yep, I think this is the color story we're sticking with. And I have to say, I don't love it as much as I thought I would, having put it all together. I do feel like it's very similar to the picture. Okay, I am going to swatch it again, and then we will compare it to the swatches on the World Wide Web. This is Ofra French Mocha. I think I forgot to tell you guys that, so. This is it. This is my swatches of my version of the Fall Romance palette. I think these resemble it quite well. I think that our could be better choices are these two here, which are the Cleona shadows. I think that they just flip just too much for them to be great for this palette, but I think otherwise everything else suits the palette. Let me know what you guys think. With that said, I hate this palette. I hate the color story of this. I am so glad that I practiced this before just purchasing the palette. Now, I understand that my shadows are maybe, you know, not 100% indicative of what is actually happening in the palette, and maybe these two shadows would make or break the palette, but I doubt it. For me, it's not even about that. It's about looking at this and going, WTF. Like, I mean, truly, WTF. And, you know, when I look at it online, I don't see WTF. But, and maybe these two need to be switched around, but either way, it's still the same. It's still the same whether these two, I'm so glad I did this as a practice before I made a mistake and purchased a palette that I wasn't going to love. So what I would say is, even if these aren't exact replicas of what is in the actual palette, I still think that I would not get any use out of this palette. So I'm really happy that I did this. So let me know what you guys think of this, and I would love to do some more of these. As you all know, I moved, right? And I moved into an area that is far more expensive than the area that I just came from. So I am trying to like think real hard through my purchases and make better purchasing decisions. My dollar isn't stretched quite as far over here as it was in Eastern Washington. Like a little bit went a very long way in Eastern Washington, and that's just not the case over here. So with that said, I did enjoy doing this. It did take a long time, and I feel like I don't have necessarily the single shadow collection to do this always, but you know, especially when it came to some of these shadows, I was pretty sure that I could mimic like a lot of these. Where I was wondering if I was going to be able to was the mattes. But like even looking at these swatches, you guys, like doing it through a different lens, doing it through the lens of I just tried to create this palette myself, even looking at these swatches, I'm like, what were they thinking? Like, this is a beautiful pink. Obviously I have it in my collection, but why is it in this palette? Yep, I don't need this palette. I'm really happy that I did this. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you guys also enjoyed walking through my singles with me and trying to recreate a palette. Let me know if you want me to do more of these. The Fall Romance palette has just been calling my name, so I felt like I needed to. But I'm going to put these back because this isn't a palette that I think I will ever think about again. So there's that. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like it and leave a comment for me. Chat down in the comment section. I would love to hear from you guys. I always like having little conversations down there. So please don't forget to hit me up down in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about this that I just put together and how you now feel about the palette after watching me do this. And how do you feel my swatches looked compared to the actual palette? I would be interested in that as well. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you and yours are healthy and safe and getting along as best you can out there. I hope that you are all having a grand old time, and I hope that you are all loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye friends. You know what I forgot all about? I have Natasha Denona palettes, and you can pop all those out of there too. I still don't love this palette, but next time we do this, I need to go through and mark those shadows so that I know what palette they came out of. But the next time we do this, after I've gone through and marked all those shadows, maybe we'll play with those too and bring them into this. All right, guys. Bye.